watching the Citizens Report. My name is William Donahue. For this show, I never intended for the show to be a show about brain chips and chemtrails and conspiracy theories and things of that nature. My aim is to cover news as accurately as I see it. So, to start off today's show, we have brain chips and chemtrails. The reason I bring this up is because it's all current news, and it is happening right now. So, Elon Musk's Neuralink implants brain chip in first human. The first human patient has received an implant from brain chip startup Neuralink on Sunday and is recovering well, the company's billionaire founder Elon Musk said. So, brain chips in humans. I didn't introduce Frank. Sorry, buddy. This is Frank. I'm watching him for the week. He is on the show as our guest for today, and he will probably fall asleep. Tennessee Senate passes bill to end chemtrails. So 24 senators voted in favor, 6 opposed. So this bill was passed. So there's an actual bill in the Tennessee Senate to end chemtrails. There's an actual brain chip in a human being. And that's how we're going to start this show off, because those are things that in the past were thought to be conspiracy theories, or that they would never happen, written about as sci-fi type things, and now we see it kind of being in everyday news. So keep that stuff in mind as we go into this, because there's a fair amount of other things that pop up now that used to be considered not possible. So before we get into this, please like this video, share it with anyone that you can, and subscribe to my channel to get notified when new episodes or new shows come out, the YouTube shorts. Are you ready to go to bed, buddy? Here, put you on the floor. There you go. So, for our first section, I have Russian news. Today, or this weekend, there was a very large terror attack in Russia. I haven't had the chance to cover it because I do shows every couple days. So, finally getting to it, and I'm glad that I waited for things to unfold, because there's kind of a bigger picture involved than just the attack itself. So, Russian court charged 4 men with act of terrorism. The Islamic State group, or IS, said it carried out Friday's outrage at Crocus City Hall and posted video evidence. So IS is ISIS. ISIS took credit for this attack. Russia is charging the 4 men with terrorism. It's said that the 4 men were trying to escape to Ukraine, which plays into some of these bigger pictures. Now here, we're talking about ISIS members carried out the attack. Iran court orders U.S. Obama to pay $313 million for terrorist attack. An Iranian court has ruled that the United States government and a number of individuals and entities, including former President Barack Obama, must pay compensation for 2017 attacks carried out by the armed group ISIL. So, the reason why Barack Obama is on the list is because he was behind funding ISIS through government, through government funding, grants, aid packages, however they did it. They funded this group for a different reason, and then it evolved into what is now ISIS, and he is being charged. So that's important to think about when you think about Joe Biden being his vice president, the connection between ISIS and this current Democrat Party kind of thought process. Russia is placing the blame on Ukraine, and we've seen that the CIA, from my last week's episode, the week before that, and the show before that, the past 3 shows. I don't have time to break it all down, but if you go back, you could see how our intelligence agencies interfered with Ukraine's election, set up secret spy bases, provocated things on the Russian border. They've also funded ISIS. Now we've got ISIS fleeing to Ukraine after a terror attack on Russia. And Russia, so Putin fixates on imaginary foes while terrorists attack Moscow. This article here is important because they're trying to make Russia look bad, but in the process, it's an admission that the United States knew the attack was going to happen ahead of time. And even an admission that Vladimir Putin called them out for it beforehand. So, Putin fixates on imaginary foes while terrorists attack Moscow. So I've highlighted a couple lines here. The U.S. Embassy in Moscow even told Americans in the capital to avoid concert halls. So there was a prior message to Americans from the U.S. Embassy in Moscow saying, stay out of concert halls. Then, later in the article, Putin described the Americans' notification as a provocative statement that resembled outright blackmail and an intention to intimidate and destabilize our society, talking about Russia. So the U.S. warned, Russia said, what is this, blackmail? That kind of reminds me of like the mafia used to go into a gas station and say, hey, you want us to protect you? And the guy says, well, nothing ever happened in this neighborhood, it's safe here. And, what are you guys, trying to get money out of me? And then, next thing you know, the store is burning down, and you should have paid. So, Putin calls it out, and then they say in this article, Putin ignored the U.S. attempt to help, only to have his own security forces fail to prevent the Moscow attack. Tells you all you need to know about the nature of his regime. That might tell you what you need to know about his regime, but it also tells you what you need to know about our regime, considering that both of the implicated countries or groups, ISIS and Ukraine, are funded by the U.S., and we warned our citizens in Moscow, the city the attack happened, to stay out of concert halls. It seems like that mafia example that I explained. Taking the money from the corner store to pay for protection, and then you protect them from what? Your own people? Russia says suspects in Crocus Concert Hall attack detained as death toll rises to 137. So this article says the terror group ISIS claimed responsibility for the deadly incident. A U.S. official said Friday that Washington had no reason to doubt ISIS's claim. So don't look into it at all. That's just Russia over there. We don't need to investigate. We're the moral authority when it comes to third world countries. We don't care if there's a terror attack in Russia, apparently. So we have no reason to doubt their claim. We just say, okay, yeah, ISIS did it. And then Putin linked what he called a barbaric attack to Ukraine in video statement released Saturday, as he expressed deep condolences and declared Sunday a national day of mourning. There's also other articles that say that he's blaming the U.S. and England for these attacks. So I think Putin is playing his cards right as far as not moving into Ukraine, judging by what interference we've had in the area. And when he went into Crimea, it was a mistake. When he went into the Donbass, all of it's building this boogeyman out of Putin. And I think that if he would react here, that would set off, like, knock over the first domino. And like I said, brinksmanship. This is brinksmanship that we're dealing with, and we're in the late stages of it. So first there's appeasement. You make agreements, everything's, tension, but at least there's structure to it. Then something bad happens, but, you let it go. Then something bad happens to the other party, or the other country. Then something bad happens to the other country, and it builds up. That's called brinksmanship. And then it becomes a war. That is how World War I, the Balkan powder keg, happened, and that is how World War II happened, with Putin moving up into Poland. And now we're seeing it again, or a similar type of series of events. So this article I threw in there, the cargo ship in Baltimore. This, you guys know as much as I do. We've all seen the video. I'm just hitting this article because it's relevant. The collapse occurred after a massive container ship lost power early Tuesday and crashed into the bridge, sending people and vehicles into the frigid Patapsco River. So now they're saying that there wasn't any vehicles. And actually, I seen a weird article that said there was nobody on the bridge because luckily law enforcement stepped in. So I don't know how law enforcement would know to step in when this boat just crashes into a bridge. But that article I don't have here, and I also didn't really want to get into some of the twisted aspects of this. This is something that I personally watched the video, and you see the ship here, the bridge here, right? Or the pier here with holding the bridge. The ship's going this way. The lights go off. The lights go back on. Smoke pours out of the ship, and the ship hits a hard right and heads straight for the thing. It wasn't a power outage that the ship last minute tried to steer away from and still hit the base of the bridge. It was going away from it. The power went out. The engine kicks on, plume of smoke, and then it hooks a hard right and crashes right into the bridge. So that's my perspective of what happened. And other than that, speculation, I'm not going to get into, just because of credibility reasons. I don't want to play into any theories. Now, this bridge is important infrastructure. It is something that, if it was an attack, it should be investigated. And if it was an attack, then it definitely is one of the biggest acts of war that's happened on United States grounds. But so the next section I called genocide. This is a UN study, Anatomy of a Genocide. Report of the Special Rapporteur on the Situation of Human Rights in Palestinian Territories, occupied since 1967, Francesca Albanese. So, uh, this article is talking about how uh, 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, 71,000 injured, 13,000 of the dead are children, and it says by analyzing the patterns of violence and Israel's policies in the onslaught on Gaza, this report concludes that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the threshold indicated Israel's commission of genocide is met. So, based on a pattern of violence in Israel's policies and its onslaught on Gaza, they're claiming that this is grounds for a genocide, to be called a genocide. So, this genocide section, it's not all about Israel, but this article is about Israel. It's just relative. So, Israel ready to release over 700 Palestinians in exchange for 40 hostages held by Hamas, some of which being Americans. I don't know if that's a good deal or what the deal is. I think prisoner exchange, ceasefire, peace agreements, anything we could do is good. 700 or 800 Palestinians for 40 hostages. I guess it's a step in the right direction, and this is a good thing that you could say is happening with that situation, but that's about the only good thing that's come out of this. So, on the topic of genocide, Planned Parenthood faces new allegations of selling aborted fetal tissue. New evidence shows Planned Parenthood sells late-term aborted baby parts in violation of federal law for far more money than has ever been disclosed. So I put this in the genocide section because I do believe that the intentional killing of anybody in mass is a genocide, and I believe that these are human beings, and I also thought that it was disgusting, and that Planned Parenthood is selling aborted babies for massive amounts of money to God knows who. So I think that Planned Parenthood should probably be at the end of its days. I'm reading here, the University of California, San Diego, to profit from the harvesting and sale of aborted fetuses for research patents. So that is in the genocide category for that reason. Now here's also another reason, another article. So, how many millions and millions of people got the COVID vaccine? This goes into this section because of that. Like I said, killing in mass. Strategy. This is a new article that came out. So, if 50,000 people or millions of people took the COVID vaccine, and let's say 50,000, 100,000 have life-altering or ending side effect, that's why this is in this section. 50,000 people is a very large number. Joseph Stalin said, one death is a tragedy, 10,000 is a statistic. That's why he's not even talked about really when it's the topic of genocide. It's always Hitler that everyone reverts back to. Joseph Stalin killed more people than Hitler, and that's just a talk about the statistics of possibilities of what could happen. But this article is the centerpiece, or not the centerpiece, but part of the centerpiece of that discussion when it comes to mRNA technology. Strategies to reduce the risk of mRNA drug and vaccine toxicity. Biomedical scientist Dr. Lydia Angelova, who was able to analyze the non-public study, says the reason this study was hidden might have to do with the fact that its contents are enraging and paint mRNA manufacturers in a negative light. So they're saying that there's toxic chemicals. The mRNA formulated with lipid nanoparticles is a transformative technology that has enabled the rapid development and administration of billions of coronavirus disease 2019 vaccines. So I said hundreds of millions. We're talking about billions of vaccines administered. That's over the course of multiple booster shots for whoever took those shots over and over again. This is relative to the Florida Surgeon General that I spoke about before, coming out and saying that the FDA should recall all COVID vaccines due to the toxicity of what is in the lipid nanoparticles. This talks about the lipid nanoparticles and billions of shots administered, or millions, or however many it is. The statistics that come out of this, it only takes a small percent to have a large number of people affected. So that's in that section for that reason. Now, P. Diddy, or Combs, or whatever, Sean Diddy Combs, he has been accused of sex trafficking for a long time by many figures who were told that that wasn't going on, accused by many of his co-workers and or whatever, colleagues, whatever you call them, and now he is officially being charged or accused of sex trafficking and other things. So what we know about Diddy's sex trafficking allegations. The famed producer had been accused of sex trafficking in several recent lawsuits. So armored tanks, helicopters, swarms of federal agents, police descend upon Sean Diddy Combs' Los Angeles home on Monday. They swarm the home. Meanwhile, Diddy Love Air private jet tracked amid raids down on Caribbean island. So they say that it's unreported whether he actually touched down there or not, but that's probably the most likely thing since he is not at the homes where they're being raided. A lot to say about that. As things unravel, I'll kind of get into it. Like I said, there's a lot of figures who have talked about this before and reported on it. Many of them are not on YouTube, so there's nowhere to direct you to. But look it up, see what allegations, what what dropped cases or charges or payments, settlements have been on his record, what cases, what accusations, and look at the chain of things and celebrities who've come out against them. And my advice is to believe your eyes when you watch any videos. That's what I would say, because some people are in the know and know what's going on with these types of things, and then it's easy for somebody that a lot of people might think is a very good person just based on public image, and the layer behind them sometimes goes unnoticed, and it clearly has with him because he is behind many of the major rap stars in hip hop, the whole industry. He's behind many of them, funding, producing, whatever he does. He's behind them, and it is something that I would say is very deeply rooted. And it's just gone completely under the radar. So, this next section I have is called Politics. And it's kind of a weird bunch of articles all jumbled together, but I thought it was all political, mostly, because Trump bond lowered to $175 million as he appeals civil fraud judgment in New York. He's appealing it. They're lowering it from $464 million to $175, and they're also extending the timeline. He was supposed to pay this previous Monday. Now the money is not due until September. I watched something that said that they violated the 8th Amendment. Basically, that you can't give anyone cruel or unusual punishment, overcharge them for fines, things of that nature. The punishment has to fit the crime, and that's what he appealed on, and clearly he must have been justified for them to turn around and lower the money, because why else would you do that? So I think that's just a way for them to save face. This article is political because Pakistanis only faked Nazi arson. On Christmas Day, the house of Pakistani family suddenly goes up in flames. They weren't home. In the ruins, the fire brigade later found Nazi slogans on the wall. The state security agency investigating right-wing extremism, arson, now it comes out it was all a lie. The family started the fire themselves. So that is a political move. If you like Jesse Smollett or like Tim Younger's campaign bus, the KKK guys outside, that was all fake. And this is another example of something like that. When you're trying to achieve a political agenda and you don't have any evidence that it's going on, you just make evidence. Jesse Smollett puts a noose around his neck and tries to get people to believe that there's a hate crime going on because he's against hate crimes, but there wasn't any real hate crime happening, so he had to make one up. So that's what we're seeing here, and it's just not even believable. You're gonna burn your own house down, and then they got caught. So that's the funny part. So Canada, this is from Canada. Vancouver police say they don't know if rape suspect is male or female, despite having semen evidence. This is in the political section because you have a semen sample, you have a picture of someone who looks like Jerome Bettis, like a ready to run through a line of 300-pound guys, broad shoulders, tall, wearing a wig and a dress, but you have a semen sample and you have a picture of if that's a girl, the most built girl, the most structurally manly female that you've ever seen. So this is in the political section because for the police department to say they don't know is only because of political correctness or political backlash from left-wing parties, and it just doesn't make sense. On February, the transit police issued a press release asking for help identifying the suspect, but in the description, they don't say male or female, and clearly It says, although the photos and videos showed what appeared to be a man with long hair, the statement curiously omitted some basic information about the suspect. No pronouns were used, and no information about the suspect's sex was included, even though you found a semen sample. This is like talking to little kids. Like, Daddy, where? You know what I mean? It's uncomfortable to talk about for me to bring it up. But where does semen come from? Which, like if you're, like any other animal, a dog, a cat, a deer, any other animal, biology says that the male animal put. Alright, we're not having the talk. This is ridiculous. It's a man. Okay? So, that's all I have for you today. I hope you did enjoy the show. Please like, subscribe, share these videos. Check me out on Twitter. Check me out on TikTok. And I will be posting the links to those in the description of this video. I haven't done that yet. I'm just trying to put all this together. In the meantime, I hope that you have a good day. I hope that you are healthy. I hope that you pray for this country. And God bless you all. Have a good night.
Thank you for watching The Citizens Report with William Donahue. On this show, we search for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the world around us through the lens of an American citizen.